Hello, this is a tutorial that's going to help walk you through the SODAS as a reminder for your Unit 2 test. I'm using the example from the Unit 1 test to be able to help you remember the strategy of how to write in psychology. So, prior to the test, you were given 8 terms of psychological applications and development and aspects that we talked about over the course of Unit 1. And your job prior to the test was to define these terms extensively. Many of you had basic definitions that you found in the book and didn't really consider all the aspects of defining these terms. So, as a reminder for test 2, make sure if it asks, for instance, about parenting styles, you would define clearly all 4 parts of the parenting styles. You wouldn't just name them, you would also define, like, what is a permissive parent, what is an authoritative parent. For moral development, if it was an example, you would define Kohlberg's 3 steps: pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional, and you would describe what those steps actually mean. So make sure when you look at the term, you consider all parts of the term. Go back into your notes, go back into class notes, activities to really fully develop a good definition. So once you've done that, so as part of the class, I'm allowing you to define the terms ahead of time. If you are taking the AP exam, you will actually define them on the spot. So practicing the test without it as we move forward could be an option that you take if you're opting to take the exam. For those of you that are not, I'm giving you the step of allowing you to define the terms ahead of time, not knowing what the scenario is so that you'll have to apply it on the spot, but at least you'll have the definitions to help you. So what I gave is a scenario. Your friend Paige discovers she is pregnant. She wants to be a good parent and take steps to help her infant flourish as they get older. She asks you, the human development expert, for advice. Using 5 of the terms below, please give some advice to Paige on how to be a good parent. So right away, what I would do is if I were approaching the test, I would ask myself, okay, what is the scenario asking? Which concepts do I understand the best? And I would cross off the 3 that I'm not going to use in this case. For test 2, you have 9 terms, so you'll immediately cross off 4. I did tell you to define more than 5 because you don't know the scenario. And if you don't have extra words prepared, you may not be as prepared as you want to be able to apply them. Once that's done, then you go into your SODAS strategy. So your SODAS strategy is simple. On a white line sheet of paper, you space it first, and you number 1 to 5. But what you should do is you should leave between each number. It says 3 to 5 blank lines. I might actually encourage like 5 to 8 blank lines, and that way you have a part of your paper that is set up. I would also, right next to the numbers, define and leave some space and application, because that is going to be the next part. So order. Answer the components of the question in the order that they are listed. If the question only has one part, ignore this. So right away, this question has one part. It's using the 5 terms below. Please give some advice to Paige on how to be a good parent. If there was another part that went on to another aspect, in your questions, you would have, okay, first I need to do this, then I need to do this. In this case, you're answering one question, but you have 2 things that you need to do. You're going to define, and then you're going to apply. And so that's what comes next. Next to each number, I would write the words define, leave some space, and write the word apply, leaving space, and then going to your next number and doing the same thing. That way you put in order what you need to do. Obviously, prior to the test, you'll have defined it. So I will just look at the piece of paper that you attach to your test. But in an AP situation, you would actually define the term. Then apply is what a lot of you struggled with. Defining the psychological terminology shows me that you understand the concept. So when I ask for moral development, you need to tell me all parts of moral development. That I think is a little more straightforward because that's a skill that you apply all the time in school. But for application, that's where some of you struggled. So we'll go back to that in a second. For definition, I gave an example down here of basic trust. And I said basic trust is formed, according to psychologist Erik Erikson, in the most critical stage 1, trust versus mistrust of psychosocial development, with the basic virtue of hope trying to be achieved. In that one sentence, I give a definition, I give you the psychologist, I give you what stage of psychosocial development Erikson formed, and I also give you the basic virtue that they're trying to achieve at the end of this stage. So within one sentence, I've given a pretty thorough definition. I go on to say, because the infant is entirely dependent upon his or her caregivers, the quality of care that the child receives plays an important role in the shaping of the child's personality. During this stage, children learn whether or not they can trust the people around them. If a child successfully develops trust, he will feel safe and secure in the world. And I might change he or she will feel safe or secure in the world. So I've done this in 3 sentences. My second sentence goes on to clearly tell you how the child will achieve basic trust, and then the outcome if the child successfully achieves basic trust, what will they feel? And that is a very, very clear definition that will clearly explain what basic trust actually means. You're going to notice, though, I included some names if applicable. I've included the actual stage that we're talking about here. So all of those pieces are important when you're defining a term. I didn't just say basic trust is based on the quality of care a caregiver gives to a child, which a lot of you said. So please, please, please double check your definitions for this upcoming test. Okay, then I've defined. So now I'm going to go on to application. Application is where you have to actually relate the term to the scenario. It is very important. It's almost like you're talking to the person in the scenario. So in this case, you're going to say, Paige, in order to be a good mother, you need to do this. And so my first sentence actually addresses the scenario. And this is a trick of the trade for application. You would say, in order for Paige to be a good mother who helps her child flourish, if you look at those words, I literally take the words from the question. Helps her child flourish. I'm recognizing what my scenario is. Developing basic trust with her infant is imperative. I almost give like an opinion. I don't specifically tell you how that's important yet. I don't apply the term. I have to first use it in the sentence. So the trick that you've learned over the years is it's an opening sentence. Even though writing in psychology is very short, it's not a bad idea to write an opening sentence with not a lot of information, but as a way to recognize what it is you're writing about with the key term underlined in the sentence. This is the only time that I should use the word trust in this application, basic trust. And so imperative means important. So you can shorten it and make it that word instead. Now, this is the part that a lot of you struggled with. To apply it, I need to give specific examples of how Paige can do this with her child. I don't want to just reword my definition. I want to give specifics. So, for example, since during this stage, communication of the baby is limited, if her baby cries, Paige should respond by providing food, safety, a fresh diaper, or a cuddle. I am telling Paige how she can help provide that basic trust so that her child feels like they're important and safe and secure in the world. I don't just say Paige should respond to make her baby feel safe in the world. I give examples. So that's something that I would really work on for this next test. You need to take the basic aspect, basic trust, or the psychological aspect, and apply it with a real world scenario of what the person can do in the case that's provided to you. So then I go on to say, and this is the last part of SODAS, you need to give a couple more sentences that do not use the term again, but use synonyms so that it's understood that you understand what basic trust means in other words. So I say if Paige responds quickly and appropriately to her baby's cries, then a foundation of confidence is developed. This will help her baby have a firm belief in the people caring for them, which will make the baby feel safe and secure in the world. I do use a little bit of language at the end that came from the definition, but you're going to notice that I don't say basic trust. I say confidence. I say firm belief. I try to use synonyms that will still allude to what basic trust is, but I'm changing the wording so that I'm showing the reader that I clearly understand what comes of basic trust. Foundation of confidence is basic trust. A firm belief in the people caring for them. That's basic trust. But I don't use those words again. Okay? Notice that I use the word Paige in the sentence several times. It's very, very important that this time as you go to do application, you relate to the scenario. What is the scenario asking of you, and how can you apply the psychological condition to that scenario? Separating the definition from your application so that you show that you clearly understand the word. And that's why I encourage that you actually develop 7 words as opposed to 5, because if one of the words you think you know the definition for, but you don't know how to apply it, that's going to make a big difference. I hope this helps. Good luck on your test.